boys. So a lot of people have problems, obviously, with Resident Evil and the way that Resident Evil is being portrayed in the upcoming movie. Everybody feels like it's highly disrespectful to the video games and stuff like that, and I totally get that. At this point, me personally, I've checked out on anything TV related, movie related when it comes to adaptations for video games, because I just personally feel that current day Hollywood, it's going to be very difficult for them to adapt it in a way that's going to make me personally happy. So I just kind of check out and I don't even bother, because if I want to experience whatever, story and stuff like that, I'll just play the game. That's kind of how I feel about it, right? Thank you so much for watching this video, and if you guys want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join me every single day, 9 p.m. over on the main channel, where you can catch me live every single day, 9 p.m. Eastern. I hope to see every single one of you there. Now back to the main video. But I understand that video game adaptations are huge, and I understand that people go out there and, they hope for the best. But this is where we're at. This kind of reaffirms, for me personally, why I avoid Hollywood like the plague, okay? Resident Evil movie director says fans will be bummed if he just did the story of the games. So I don't know what to do about it. Really? Really? Okay. Well, that's a first. That's the first time I've ever heard of that. Yeah, guys, the fans of the franchise that they're co-opting, well, we're going to be disappointed as fuck if they co-opt it in a way that makes us recognize the game. I know it's wild, right? Like who wants people to co-opt a video game and actually give you the story of the game, or at least utilize parts of the story of the game? Who wants that? Nah, fuck that. Because clearly it makes sense to take over a franchise, utilize the built-in fan base of the franchise, and then give them something that none of them want. Because that makes sense, right? Resident Evil director Zach Krager has seen the calls for his movie to stick closer to the video games, but he's got a few good reasons for why he's choosing to tell his own personal story. His own personal story, guys. His own story. So he's adopting another franchise. He's taking the name of another franchise, and he's then decided to tell his own story. Again, if you want to tell your own story with inspirations and things that people would recognize from the video game, so that people could be like, oh, all right, this is a Resident Evil movie. Sure, fine, maybe. But I highly doubt that's what you mean. The Weapons and Barbarian mastermind commented on the divided response to his first Resident Evil movie teaser during a conversation with Obsession director and fellow comedian turned horror filmmaker Curry Barker for Interview Magazine. Again, I don't know if you could say it's divided. I think it's pretty clear that people were pretty fucking pissed about it. But anyway, he confirmed that yes, he has seen fans complaining about the lack of familiar elements in his live action version of Raccoon City, but that he's confident that telling an original tale was the right choice. I feel great about it, Krager said when Barker asked for his feelings on the Resident Evil movie. I really liked the movie a lot. It's been a wild week since the teaser came out to see the divided reaction online. There's so many people that clearly really want the video game, meaning the characters in the story from the video game, and anything different than that is not really welcomed. I didn't realize how passionate some people were about that. What do you mean, bro? What do you mean you don't realize how passionate people are about that? Brother, all you got to do is look at all the other iterations of video game adaptations that the people who worked on those adaptations chose to ignore the fans, and those movies or those TV shows got completely destroyed because they chose to ignore the fans. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Even all the way down to, for example, even Sonic. Remember the first Sonic? Remember how the first Sonic introduced, the Sonic movie introduced the creepy, super weird looking Sonic. Remember that? Imagine if they decided to say, we are not going to listen to the fans and we're going to release the movie with the original Sonic that they had planned. Imagine if they decided to do that. Had they done that, we would not be as many Sonic movies in as we are now. I would guarantee that shit. I would put money on that shit. It's because they decided to listen to people and because they actually decided to change up Sonic and listen to the feedback is the reason why people felt they went out, they supported the movie, and the movie actually ended up being really good. And now you got part 2, part 3, etc., right? You know, so not listening to the fans of a franchise, at this point, what is the point of co-opting the franchise? What is the point of actually utilizing a built-in franchise? You might as well just make your own thing. You could have named, like, you guys know, we saw it, right? Like, we reacted to the Resident Evil trailer. You guys know, if you were watching that trailer, how much you want to bet that 95% of the people who watched that trailer, if you didn't tell them the name Resident Evil, they would never think Resident Evil. Because I know I was one of them. Had I not known that Resident Evil was the name, I would have thought that this was like some random fucking horror movie that they were coming out with. It looked nothing like Resident Evil whatsoever, not even a hint, right? So, again, if you didn't want to follow the story of the games even slightly, like if you wanted to tell your own original character story within the world that people know already, then maybe people will be open to that. But you are deciding to completely just forego what seems like everything. And that's why people are like, you know what? I'm not for this. It just doesn't look like anything that I remember from the game. You're not going to put people in the seats with a franchise that has a legacy to it unless you respect that legacy and make people realize the legacy when they're looking at your trailer and saying, oh shit, I gotta see this. Seriously, you're not gonna do it. You have to do it. You have to make them realize that legacy in some way, shape, or form. Does it even have the Umbrella Corp? I don't know. I don't think so. I really don't know, Vice Admiral. Anyway, so, and another thing too, like the whole I feel great about it, I like the movie. Brother, this is the problem with modern day directors and modern day Hollywood and writers especially, is that they're writing and they're directing and they're making movies and TV shows that they like. You need to understand what kind of audience you're trying to go for. If you think that because you like it, then that means that you're going to find an audience, that's not guaranteed unless you have similar taste to what most audiences have. And just based off what I could see, comparing it to Resident Evil, I think we are way off. I really do. Now, I know Resident Evil is a massive franchise and a massive name, and you might be able to sell a ton of tickets just based off the name alone. But I just don't know if it's actually going to be that much, right? For better or for worse, the first Resident Evil movie teaser knocked gamers off their feet when it showed glimpses of a new character running through a zombie-infested streets of a strangely snowy Raccoon City late last month. There was no Leon Kennedy, Nemesis, or Lickers to be found in the trailer, instead revealing new monstrosities and a handful of subtle references to the Capcom games. Handful of subtle, very subtle. Many didn't need a trailer to trust Krager with the Resident Evil name after he cemented himself as a fresh voice in the horror space with Barbarian in 2022. Again, that doesn't mean a fucking thing. It doesn't mean a fucking thing. Okay? I'm not saying that this movie cannot be a good horror movie, but what I'm saying is it going to be a good Resident Evil movie? If that's the problem, that's what I really want to know. Is it going to be a good Resident Evil movie? I could tell based off how you're talking, and I could tell based off what you're showing that it's most likely not going to be, right? It might be a good horror movie, but it's not going to be a good Resident Evil movie. And that's the distinction I want a lot of people to realize. Because you can have one without the other. But again, that just depends. Krager has apparently then seen those concerns from skeptical viewers who took to social media to share those concerns. But he doesn't regret his decision to explore a world plagued by the T-virus from a new perspective. In fact, not only does he think he wouldn't enjoy working on a movie that leans too hard on pre-existing characters and stories, he's not even sure some of the harshest critics would enjoy it either. That is cope. That is cope. This is what they tell themselves to try to convince themselves that what they're doing is a great idea, right? When they say, oh yeah, like let's co-opt this name that has all this legacy to it, that has all these fans to it, and then let's fucking cope about the fact that we're choosing to do completely opposite what everybody else wants us to do and say that they totally feel the same way. Right? Like you guys, like they totally, like you guys totally do not want anything related to the video games in your Resident Evil movie. You know what I mean? I guarantee you, and I'll put money on this. I would bet a lot of money on this because I would feel pretty confident. If you were to release 2 Resident Evil movies at the same time, number 1 would be his, and number 2 would be a movie based on the video games with modern day technology and everything that will make a really good, like, you know, both of them got to be made well. If both of them are made equally as well, I guarantee you that the second movie based on the video games would absolutely positively dominate the first. It wouldn't even be close. Seriously, it wouldn't even be close. If they both came out at the same time and people had to choose one or the other, I guarantee you most people would choose the second one. But again, they will cope and they will say, no, that's not true. You know, I think people want to see my original story, blah, 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 whatever. So anyway, that's basically it for the Resident Evil segment. I just thought that this was an interesting conversation to have, considering that we kind of assume a lot of the times that they purposely ignore what people want, especially when they co-op franchises that are very popular. But to see a director openly admit it and say, yeah, no, I'm choosing to do my own story, and I don't really think you guys really want to see anything, you know, remotely close to the video game story anyway. I think that's pretty cool. But we'll see. We'll see how this actually ends up. Again, it could be a good horror film, but it's not going to be a good Resident Evil film. That's my thoughts on that anyway.